32 minutes, 21 seconds. 5-second tone followed by a 1-second pause.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Okay, gang, let's go.
From the space city called Houston, Texas, welcome to Spaceboy Universe, featuring Spaceboy and the lovely Surlana. So strap in and prepare for launch sequence. And remember, it's Spaceboy's Universe, and you're in it.
That you are. It is December 19th, 2015, and it is Pop Pop Pop, show number 013. Tonight we are talking cryptids with our guest, Lorelei Delille.
Yay!
Yes. And to my immediate left, as you can hear me getting applause, is the lovely Surlana.
So
Say
proud.
hello, Surlana.
So proud of you tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It helps to put things phonetically.
Write it. I told you, write it like this.
So, if you want to get in with the chat and the talks and all that good stuff, our Twitter handle is at the SB Universe, and if you want to question anything, we have the hashtag SBUQ.
Question everything.
Question everything, indeed. Of course, you know, if you want to follow along on spaceboy.com, you can just go to the live feed at the top of the page below all the links on that banner. It's just click that talk bubble to access chat. And also, you could also go to the Spreaker app and look up Spaceboy Universe, and that's another way to get in there. So, yeah, visit us at spaceboy.com to find out our latest news.
SpaceboyUniverse.com.
Did I say music again?
You said spaceboy.com. You don't actually own that one.
Oh, that is right.
SpaceboyUniverse.com. One and only place you need to be.
Thank you for that correction. SpaceboyUniverse.com to find our latest news, updates, and all our
show info,
social media. We have a pretty huge footprint, don't we? Media-wise, or social media-wise.
I don't know if anybody's aware of that, but yeah, we do.
It's almost like we're Starbucks in a way.
Quick shout out to Dennis for tweeting his brains out tonight. Thank you.
Well, he'll get some credit at the end of our show.
Yeah, I just wanted to make him know.
Yes, we love Dennis. We love Dennis, Canadian bacon, and all that good stuff.
Someday I hope we get to talk to Dennis.
Yes, Dennis. Yes, you must get in touch with us because we want to talk to you, especially Surlana.
Whether it's on air or off air, it'd just be cool.
Yeah, we're cool. You know, we're not going to say, we're not worthy. We're not worthy. So, Surlana, the big thing out there right now is Star Wars.
Prepare for pre-show banter. Thank you.
So, as you know, we haven't seen the movie yet. Because
I am so totally over Star Wars. Don't really care.
Well, you're not as connected to it as, say, I was. You didn't.
I was there when 4, 5, and 6 came out for the first time at theaters. I was a kid. I was there. Somebody took me.
Well, apparently you don't have the connection to that as I do. I think maybe more in the lines you're more Trek than you are Star Wars.
Yeah, well, I grew up and became a Trekker. It's like when we watched The Big Bang this week, and Will Wheaton they gave a ticket to Will Wheaton to come watch A Force Awakens with him, and he shows up dressed as Spock with the ears, and he's doing the Spock symbol, but he's doing the live long and prosper thing with his hands, but it's almost like he's flipping them off.
Right.
But he's not. I just thought that was great.
That was pretty funny. I enjoyed that. But I mean, Star Wars. I there's, I will admit I'm more of a Star Trek fan than Star Wars. But with that said, based upon the previews of this movie, when I saw Chewbacca and Han Solo, there was a little tear in my eye. It was like I was excited about this movie. I think at a point, I haven't even seen the movie, and I'm kind of burnt out on it already.
Oh my gosh, the media blitz, the product placements, there's no end. I mean, it's like toilet paper, toothpaste, clothing, everything. It's in your face. I'm like, I can't take it. I can't live in this world. I can't take it.
Fandango has reported that it's one of their highest grossing
I knew it would be.
online sales in history for them. So, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind.
As far as ticket sales.
Yeah, as far as ticket sales, yes. Hand over hand over hand as far as money is concerned. But out of the Star Wars comes previews that got put in line to be before Star Wars. And
I was thinking about them, like, I wonder what other sci-fi shows got to get in front of Star Wars for
as far
trailers.
As the trailers, and Star Trek was one of them. The next Star Trek Beyond movie was one of them. Now, there's a lot of people out there that's...
Well, it's also J.J. Abrams.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, although it's Abrams' universe, and...
we're trapped in it.
And we're trapped in it. So, I mean, it's not like, it's not like... the fact is that I'm trying to get at is that a lot of Star Trek people were frustrated over the fact that that they used, I guess, sabotage by the Beastie Boys, and it looked
for the second time because he used it in the first Trek reboot. Mm-hmm. He used sabotage. He's a fan. He's a fan of Beastie Boys.
The preview came across more action-packed, and I guess it was to draw people. And even Simon Pegg said, "Hey, look, I know what you're saying. This isn't the whole movie. This is just to get a wide audience interested into the movie, and so that they can."
I don't know why they have to treat Star Trek like it's got to be equalized, whereas Star Wars they can go straight to the fans.
Well, it's not like they put Queensryche in Star Wars or some kind of famous metal music or some kind of other music.
Well, it wouldn't work.
Or rap music. I mean, can you imagine Luke and Leia and all that with the music to Run DMC behind it? Or
I'd pay to see that though.
Well, I'm sure you would. But that's the big thing, and of course. With all that, I think Mel Brooks came out this past week and said he's interested in doing Spaceballs 2, and I think he joked about saying, Spaceballs 2, the quest for more money, that kind of thing.
I'd probably watch that.
Yeah, so that would be something fun to watch, too, if he actually pulls that off. Now, lately I've been on Facebook a lot lately, and I guess what kind of brings us up is that, a couple of days ago I went to Waffle House. Kind of a southern institution here, where
is Waffle House only in the South? That can't be true.
I didn't recall seeing any of them when we went out west, but I know that I've seen them in Georgia, and I've seen them here in Texas, and let me just put it to the audience: if you're not from this part of the town or part of the country, it's really a greasy spoon. I mean, if you're looking for fine 4-star dining,
also a smelly spoon,
this is not your place. However, I think the food is pretty delicious. I mean, it's greasy.
Comedian Jim Gaffigan talks about Waffle House, I think, or somebody like him. So
Hot Pockets.
Yeah, that guy.
But yeah, he would be right on the money. Well, I guess what leads this into this Waffle House I started thinking about is because lately on Facebook, there's been a lot of food porn lately on how to make this. In fact, one of the first things I saw was how to make a pizza sandwich where you take 2 pieces of bread, some provolone cheese or whatever, put some pepperonis on it, and cook it on the grill. Well, that led to a waffle iron, and somebody taking a waffle iron and putting cinnamon buns and...
Basically, you're wanting to get a waffle iron is what you're telling me.
I don't know if I really want to get a waffle iron. I think I'm being subliminally seduced to...
By waffles.
By waffles.
You're Seduced by waffles.
And, you know,
subconsciously seduced by waffles.
which, incidentally, my waffle was really good at the Waffle House the other day.
Song title that.
So I've noticed lately, every time I see a thing on Facebook, that I'm actually sharing it to my wall so that I can like review this later in case I want to try to make one of these things, and not necessarily waffle thing. So, but with that said, you were talking to me earlier today about.
I had a little bit of an kind of like an addendum to last week's show.
Yeah.
Are you trying to get back at me or something?
What are you talking about?
You're giving me these wrap it up hand gestures. Anyway, when we talked to Gordon about Tesla, I just happened to be listening to a YouTube video by Dr. Stephen Greer. And, he's kind of that big movement for about disclosure, getting the government to reveal all their secrets.
Yeah.
So, in regards to Tesla, Dr. Greer says he has the documents, the evidence that says after Tesla died, the FBI went in and got all of Tesla's papers. And he has the order from the Department of Defense requesting or demanding that the FBI turn over all that of Tesla's work.
So he requested what for disclosure on that? I mean,
well, somehow works. And he also said that Einstein is a minor luminary compared to Tesla. Tesla's the true genius of the 20th century. And the technologies that our government is hiding from the Tesla research can change everything. So he said, just imagine you have a device that you never needed to reboot once you get it going, and it could power your entire home, and it just pulls energy from the air. So does that sound familiar?
Yeah, it sounds definitely like Tesla technology.
I just thought that was interesting because it's something I happened to hear after the fact. So I don't know if you're out there, Gordon, you're here listening. I'd be curious to see what you think about that. So,
so what else have you been doing this past week?
I've been watching some stuff on YouTube because things are getting slow at work. I've been listening to trying to find some different music to listen to and all that good stuff.
Any kind of specific music you've been listening to?
I've discovered a subgenre of music that I like.
Oh.
It's called chill step.
Okay, do tell.
I guess this is an offshoot of dubstep. If you know what dubstep is. Is that low, distorted, grinding, dirty bass. Yeah, really, I like it. It appeals to me. Well, chill step takes like relaxed, kind of ambient sounds, more synthesizer stuff, keyboards, and then it merges it with dubstep, and it creates this really cool, trippy vibe. And one of the artists that I found I really like on Spotify is called Blackmill, Blackmill, Blackmill. And then I found another random one I sent you to look at, but I just really dig it.
Oh, cool. Well, I hope some of our audience members checked that out. I know that I know you're not a big David Bowie fan, and as much as I am.
Well, he's got stuff I like, but it's all kind of older stuff.
He's come out with another one called Lazarus that's going to be released pretty soon, and I didn't know that there was some kind of theatrical play related to it.
I didn't know that.
Do you remember Michael? I guess is it Michael C. Hall from Dexter? Is it? Michael?
Yeah.
In fact, he's the lead in this play, and he was recently on Colbert, and he sang his version of Lazarus. It was halfway
Michael
decent.
C. Hall can sing?
Well, I imagine he wouldn't quit his day job, but which he's acting, and it's.
Anytime you mention acting and Bowie, I just think of what was it, The Prestige, or it was what's the other movie where he played Tesla?
Yeah, it was The Prestige. I'm surprised you don't mention some of his classic movies like Labyrinth or.
Never saw it.
Really?
I know about it.
Yeah,
I kept saying I wanted to see it, but I couldn't,
You forget. We should definitely break down and see that.
Yeah.
I guess, going back to the Trek thing, Recently I caught online was that Aaron Eisenberg, he played Nog on Deep Space Nine.
The little, really shortest Ferengi on Deep Space Nine.
Well, apparently he is in line to have kidney surgery of some kind. And
I saw this on Twitter, and I was really shocked, and I really hope that all works out for him.
He has a GoFundMe account. It's GoFundMe.com/ Aaron's Kidney, and that's ARONSKIDNEY. And the thing is, he was trying to raise $10,000. Well, it just so happened, since I posted that earlier in the week, he's managed to get $10,357. So he's met his...
Yeah, but when it comes to medical bills, you can never have enough because, for like 6 months after you've had something, whether you've been in the ER or surgery, you get like bills from every lab and every individual doctor. It just never ends.
Well, the thing is, it's still going to fund until like mid-January. So my space cadets, if you can donate in any way, fashion, or form, definitely go check out that site.
Take care of our Trek people.
Yeah, Trek people, we love them, and hopefully we.
I really enjoyed his work on Deep Space Nine.
What is it? The next week we said that we will have that news about Trek.
Hopefully, we can feel that news, but it is
another
a Trek-related surprise for you
for next month,
for mid-January. Kind of early January.
The 9th.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see here. We've covered a lot of good ground here, and am I missing anything, Surlana?
No, I mean, has this been have we got the whole block of the banter done?
Anyway, so with that said, we'll go ahead into our first break. And as I pot her down so I can concentrate on what I'm about to say, we'll bring on our guest, Lorelei Delille. And so just hang tight, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Spaceboy Universe, your cosmic tour de force.
Hey, Surlana!
What?
If Spaceboy Universe was cheese, would you eat it? Come on now, it's a simple question.
Maybe.
SpaceboyUniverse.com. Do you have a great product or an idea? Then Spaceboy Universe is looking for you. We invite you to contact us at contact@spaceboyuniverse.com. Be a part of the universe. Be a part of Spaceboy Universe. Techno, dance, atmospheric moods? Yes, my friends. My latest release, Digital, has something for everyone. Even makes a great gift for Grandma. Buy your digital download at spaceboymusic.com.
To call in, dial area code 713-701-5214. You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Surlana.
And we're back. Yeah, and I bet Spaceboy wishes he could just turn a slider down and up to turn me off in real life.
Look, let's get into our guests and we can
anyway,
hash it out later.
I'm going to talk about our guest because our guest is actually a friend of mine. So, born and raised in the glorious southern state of Louisiana, Lorelei Delille spent her childhood in the pre-internet days where she was more at home outdoors being a tomboy. Miss Delille now lives in South Texas with her husband, son, several horses, cats, and a dog. She has always loved creating and spends her time painting, crafting jewelry, and making digital artwork. But writing and telling stories has been a lifelong love of hers. She enjoys telling these stories with elements of magic and the supernatural. Her writings and paintings are influenced by ghost stories and folklore stories she heard while growing up in the Deep South. Recently, Ms. Delille mastered the task of self-publishing. Her current book, a paranormal romance novel, That Voodoo That You Do, is available now as an ebook on Amazon Kindle, with more to come. Please welcome our guest author, Lorelei Delille. Are you there, Lorelei?
Yes, I am.
Yay.
Wrote it myself.
Here, really excited to talk about cryptids, and especially those of the southern persuasion, not the Yankee ones.
Yeah.
But,
well, when we got into this, I was thinking about you. It says, "Oh, let's talk about cryptids," and I'm like, well, there's so many we already know. Like, everybody talks about Loch Ness and Bigfoot, and I'm like, why don't we concentrate on? I'm from Louisiana. You're from Louisiana. I've never bothered to research our local mythology and folklore, because although I'm from Northwest Louisiana, there's a ton of stuff in the state of Louisiana, and most of it is coming from the Cajun country down south. So I said, well, it's time to look into my state's heritage. And so then I immediately thought of you and your book, because you did some research on this when you wrote That Voodoo That You Do, because one of your characters is part of this folklore about the Rougarou.
Right.
So I thought we'd get you to talk about that. So go ahead if you got something you want to start off with. If not, I was just going to give an intro about why it seems like the swamps and bayous of Louisiana seem to lend themselves to legends where, you've got the French Acadians coming in to New Orleans with some of their historical myths, but I really think a lot of these sprang up once they got migrated to the bayou and to the swamps.
Yeah, go ahead with that, because, I totally agree with that. I think there's just something about that kind of landscape and area that's just so mysterious, and
that's what I said.
Leads to that kind of thing.
It seems to be like the area that's south and east of New Orleans and way down in South Louisiana that's got all the legends, the odd creatures, and there's something about swamps that lends itself to creepiness. It's I guess it's because bayous and swamps are associated with decay and stagnation, and it's very primordial, primeval. It still looks like something from the prehistoric times.
And then plus, when the lights go out in Louisiana, I can only imagine how creepy
all the
it is.
Eyeballs that come out. Yeah, well, you've got the swamps with that stagnant green water. You can't see what's in it. All that moss hanging down, and in the dark it looks really weird, and it's sort of an untamed nature. It's like, there's things that want to kill you out there.
Right. It's never really lit light in there either. I mean, there's always kind of the light's always filtered. It's always kind of a murky light, and things go in there and they never come out.
Yeah, well, and it's not necessarily anything mythical. It's either there's those alligators, snapping turtles, alligators, cottonmouths, moccasins. All these things will get you just as with probably worse consequences than maybe a Rougarou.
Maybe.
What, electric boogaloo? What?
Well, the first thing I came across, I don't know if you'd heard of this before, is we kind of have our own what they call skunk ape, Bigfoot, was the Honey Island swamp monster down in Slidell.
Right.
I don't know if you'd heard about that. This is the guy in 63 Harlan Ford had his first encounter with it. And he didn't say anything about it in 63. He's down there with his friend on hunting trips and getting... Okay, I'm sorry, I was getting some strange signals, but I didn't know if you'd heard anything about that legend, or...
I've heard of that. There's, the Creole people and Louisiana people, I think, too, are just really big storytellers. And a lot of those stories they remain in families. They get passed down, from grandfathers and grandmothers to their kids and their kids' kids. And
that's exactly what this one got done, passed down to the granddaughter.
And actually, I had not heard about it until I think maybe a couple of years ago. I mean, you hear stories about stuff and you're not really sure if it's like an official legend, but I was watching an episode of Swamp People, and there was a guy on there talking about it, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize that they'd like designated it to the Honey Island area. I thought it was just something that people just talked about being in the swamps to scare their kids, So I found that really interesting that the legend actually was from a particular area and the sightings were in a particular area. So I thought that was really interesting.
Well, this guy Harlan was out with his on a hunting trip with his buddy Billy, and if you're going on a hunting trip in the South, you grab your nearest buddy or Billy and off you go. Now they said they saw something that was large and hairy with yellow eyes.
Well, I think you described me. That's like me coming out of the shower, and
I don't think we want to go there. Anyway, when they saw it, the creature was on all fours, I guess, down on the ground. And Billy asked Harlan, "What is that thing?" And as soon as he spoke, this creature stood up, made eye contact, and then it took off. And they said it was about 7 feet tall, long gray hair on its head, but shorter gray hair on the body. And that was in 68, I believe. No, 63. And then in 1974, they see it again on a duck hunt. Now, this is where it gets weird. I don't know if you've seen heard a lot of these stories where these really upsetting carcasses of animals, they see a dead boar with his throat torn out, and it's been left rotting a couple of days, and they say, oh, well, a gator got it. And so they keep going. Another dead boar, same wounds, let to rot. They finally reach the pond where they're going to get the ducks, and they saw these ripples in the water. I'm like, okay, here's the ducks. So they get down and hunker down on the ground to line up their shots, and they crawl to the edge of the pond. Another dead boar, open wound, blood pouring into the pond. If that's good and creepy. And then they saw those same tracks near it back that they saw in 63, and they said, you know what? I think it's time to go.
I don't blame them. I think I would have taken out of there pretty fast myself.
But now, I don't know if you've seen their plaster cast. This is where it kind of falls apart for me because they just look so much like gator tracks that have just been elongated. So
right.
I don't know. Even though the LSUS zoologist said it was a 400-pound animal and they couldn't determine, so I don't know. But they say they're still having sightings of this along the Pearl River, on both sides of the Pearl River for Mississippi and Louisiana. And it scares people because it has that human-like face. So, then there's Super 8 footage of it, but the video's been a little bit called into question because there's these strange jump edits in it, and they can't really account for that. But let's get to something that I know you know about, which is going to be the Rougarou.
Right. Well, so when I was writing that voodoo that you do, I had planned for there to be a side character in the book who was the main character, Delphine. It was her cousin, and I was writing his part, and I had no intentions at the time of this happening, but somehow when I was writing it, he just turned into a werewolf.
Isn't that weird when you're writing and you got, okay, I'm going to write this, and the next thing you know, it's gotten away from you?
It has. I mean, it just totally happened. As I was writing the paragraph about him, I realized this guy's a werewolf. And, of course, being from Louisiana, and growing up around that area, I'd heard of the Rougarou. I knew the legends, and so it just seemed like kind of a natural thing to include him in the book. But I thought, I need to go back and kind of research this a little bit, because, what I had heard amounts to what we hear as kids as, ghost stories and things that adults tell us, just to get us really good and scared. And
my mother used to do to me.
We won't get into trouble or something,
And that's how that originates.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I decided to research it, and I thought it would make sense to look into the origins of the Rougarou in New Orleans. Where would the legend come from? Would it be native to the area, or would it have come with the people? And since I decided to approach this in terms of it being kind of a hereditary bloodline kind of thing, I decided to follow the French-Canadian connection. And as I began to research the history of werewolf beliefs, I found a particular story about St. Patrick. And the legend goes that St. Patrick, I read it in two places in my research. In one place it took place in France, and in another place it took place in Wales.
That's what I read.
But what was happening is that St. Patrick was trying to basically convert the area to Christianity, and he was not really happy with these people who were not converting, and he got pissed off at them, and he decided that he was going to curse this one king. And I in one story it was just the king's family, and in another story it was the king or the tribe of and any men that held like a high position in this tribe who weren't conforming to Catholicism. He cursed them, and for 7 years they were cursed to be wolves. So for 7 years they would be a wolf, and then for 7 years they would be human. And so there was even supposedly a confession from someone that was transcribed by a priest somewhere, where he has actually taken the confession of a man who was a werewolf.
Oh,
and
wow.
So that was kind of where I followed that legend. And then, of course, you have the whole tales of the Wendigo that come down from the Canadian French area, that are kind of native American, native North American in nature, that have like a monster werewolf type creature that
that one's scary. I think that one's scary.
That one's very scary.
And it has to do with cannibalism.
Huh?
The Wendigo has to do with cannibalism.
Yeah, that one's a little more scary. I decided not to go there on that one. It was a little, I was like, no, that's not going to work into a romance book very well. So, anyway, I kind of stuck with the idea that the shape-shifting to the wolf was the curse that had been laid upon these people, carried down through their bloodlines over the centuries, and over the centuries they were able to control it to some degree and learn to actually use it to their advantage in some instances. So that was kind of my idea of the origin of the Rougarou for this story. But it is very prevalent in New Orleans, and is still told as a tall tale. It's like a warning tale that people tell their children, and it's even believed that if you don't follow Lent, if you miss it for 7 times in a row, that you'll turn into a rougarou.
Now, were you, when you were growing up, do you recall these stories as a child or anything?
Well, now
similar
I was not Catholic. I was raised Southern Baptist,
Mm-hmm.
but I do recall the stories of the rougarou.
Mm-hmm.
My father used to delight in telling me what he called wolfie stories, and he would tell me stories about, you know, the rougarou and the werewolves and the wolves in the forest, and so you know, I would hear all these, and I was just terrified as a child. But yeah, he used to tell me these stories, and I would hear them repeated from my uncles and you know, older people on both sides of my family.
See, I'd never heard of it until like a month ago, which is kind of shameful because I had lived in Louisiana my entire life.
And quite frankly, and from my perspective, I have not heard of many Louisiana stories like that, and until I met you, to be honest with you. I mean, I'd heard all these other stories of Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, and the Jersey Devil, and
well, yeah, like I said, the Acadians brought over a lot, in the idea of the rougarou werewolf was brought over from the 16th century France, and it was like becoming a werewolf or a rougarou was like something you could catch, like a cold from another person, or just if you were cursed by a witch, mm-hmm. and you'd be fine unless something triggered your transformation. And I don't know if this is in your, I don't think this is in your version, Lorelei, but they said your body becomes enlarged, you're craving for raw meat, and to fully transform, you had to take a bite of human flesh. But I think maybe yours was a little different, or maybe, I don't know if you had much of a backstory.
Mine's a little different. The transformation in mine can be triggered by, I guess, anger or pain, but you know, extreme heightened emotion. But in my book, the people who have the ability, have learned to control it. I mean, there are times that it just kind of takes them over, and they're just, you know, if they get in an extreme situation where, you know, it's kind of like, you know, I guess you could compare it to the Hulk, but yeah. Not that bad. But mostly they're able to control the ability. And I mentioned in the book that the character Emil and was homeschooled as a youngster, so it was in my mind that they kept them home. They had to homeschool them or keep them away from others when they were very young until they learned to kind of master the ability. But that's not in any of the tales that I heard. It was just kind of a contriving of the stories that, in the stories I've heard, they're all kind of things you hear, you know, linked to the original werewolf tale, mm-hmm. you know, don't go out at night by yourself under a full moon, you know, and if you go in the woods by yourself, you know, they're going to get you, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it seems like a cautionary thing just to keep kids from wandering off.
Well, I think
right, and I'm sure that was a big part of it. I was also going to mention to James, he was talking about how he hadn't heard a lot of these things. You know, the Cajun Creole people are a real tight-knit group.
Yeah, and it's mostly oral tradition, so if you're like kind of not like there, you won't hear it, maybe?
Right. It's an oral tradition. It really is. And as I said, you know, I think there might be a tendency not to really trust people who are outsiders. And, you know, people from Louisiana get made fun of all the time.
Yeah.
So, you know, there might be the feeling that hey, if we talk about this, people are going to make fun of us and you know, just say, oh, we're just hicks, you know, we don't know what we're talking about, and we're just crazy.
Well, in your version, I'm trying to remember if it conforms, like, okay, they say that the rougarou is kind of like the body of a man, but the head of a wolf dog. Is that what yours was like? I know yours had 3 stages or 2 stages that you wrote, that you put in your book.
There were really 3 stages. As I said in my book, they kind of look at it as an ability, and there are a couple of places. Well, in that voodoo that you do, you really only see 2 of them. But I'm working on the 2nd book now in the series called Painted Love. It should be out by the end of the year, I hope. And it's very close to being done. Where he actually, we go into detail about how he transforms, that he can let, like in his normal human form, he has heightened senses, heightened sense of smell, heightened vision, heightened hearing, and then that he can allow himself to either completely turn into a very large wolf-like creature, or he can be in a state that's kind of in between, which is more like the Rougarou form that you just mentioned, with the head of a wolf and the body of a man. More like what you think of in the typical werewolf movies, where they stand on their hind legs.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Really terrifying.
Dude, excuse me, I have to cough here. You mentioned that another myth that came over was that they would hunt down the Catholics who broke the rules of Lent 7 years in a row. Now, some of the origins of the story speculate the Rougarou was under a spell for 101 days. And after this time, the curse could be transferred from person to person if he drew human's blood. And another strange origin of the story says that, okay, so if you get bit and you become one, and one other way to break the curse is just don't talk about it. Don't talk about that you saw one. Don't say that you were bit. And on the 102nd day, if you didn't say anything, the curse was broken.
Right.
I thought that was really kind of interesting. Had you heard?
I was going to say that when we, this is Spaceboy, by the way.
You didn't know.
Just so that everybody knows. I was watching a program recently, and part of that mythos that went along with them is that the Rougarou, apparently they had to be cut or something like that.
Yeah. That's the story I heard. Like, okay, so you've got this young boy who's walking home at night, and this Rougarou jumps out, and the boy has like a Swiss Army knife, and he cuts that Rougarou on his arm, and the Rougarou becomes a man instantly. But the kid runs off.
Well, another thing that when I was watching this program was kind of interesting was that the young man that ended up cutting the Rougarou later, a couple days later, saw his cousin. And his cousin had his arm wrapped in the same area that he had been cut.
And the boy ran home to tell his parents about it, and he became one and committed suicide.
Well, that's not the part of the story that I saw, but I'm sure it was something similar to you.
That probably gets retold,
Anyway, so at the way from what I gathered was the Electric Boogaloo Part 2 can be a cousin, could be your mother, could be the guy you see at the Chinese restaurant.
Yes.
It could be just about anybody. It's anybody. It can.
And the legend says if someone gets turned into a Rougarou, it will run off deep into the woods, swamps, or bayou to avoid eating loved ones. So I was like, well, it's it's a thoughtful creature. Oh, we got to take a break?
Yeah, it's a break time. We blew past our bottom of the hour break.
Okay.
So just
stay tuned for Electric Rougarou Part 2.
Yeah, so everybody just sit tight. We'll be right back after this break, and we'll continue talking to more of the Rougarou, and we'll go from
there's
there.
More about it.
So more to come, so sit tight, people.
listening to Spaceboy Universe, the #1 broadcast on Omicron Persei 8.
Techno, dance, atmospheric moods? Yes, my friends. My latest release, Digital, has something for everyone. Even makes a great gift for Grandma. Buy your digital download at spaceboymusic.com.
To call in, dial area code 713-701-5214. You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Surlana.
All right. We're back. And we are talking to Lorelei Delille. And I guess if you want to pick it up from there, Surlana?
In my research into this, it also said, I've heard two things about the Rougarou. One says they are as intelligent in that form as they are in their human form. Now, the other side says, this cracked me up, excuse me, ways to avoid the Rougarou. One way is there's a certain kind of leaf you've got to get, and you put it in your wallet, and that'll ward it off. Now, the second way, paint a hexagon in the center of your floor and pray like crazy. Now, the third way would...
Wait, stop there. That just I just saw this movie in my head, Skeleton Key. You knew how much I love that movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
that was, yeah.
Go ahead.
Another one says, this is in opposition to the, it's intelligent. Well, this one kind of makes you think the Rougarou is not. It says, well, take any 13 objects and place them outside of your door, because the Rougarou can only count to 12, and that will actually keep him busy, because he keeps having to go over and count it back to 12. And so if you've got like a colander, you can hang that outside your door. It'll sit there. If you've got a screen door, it'll try to count all the holes in your screen door, and that'll keep it occupied till I guess it gets too tired, or you can, I don't know. I just know if you'd heard that, by having these more than 12 objects, that'll keep him occupied. I don't know if you'd heard that, Lorelei.
Yeah, I had not heard that before now. That's really funny. I'd heard the leaf thing about putting a leaf in your wallet. I had heard that, and that is actually used to, I've also heard of that used to ward off the ill intentions of, like as far as voodoo or somebody putting a spell on you or something like that. I've heard that before, that a leaf in your wallet can ward off ill intentions. But I've not heard that they couldn't count above 12. That's pretty funny.
You never saw anything like that in your research, or did you go to New Orleans and see some things, or?
I did, and you brought up something when we were talking about this before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were talking about
pre-show interview.
You had said that something about putting 13 stones.
Or any 13 objects, yeah, that because it'll sit there and count to 12 and see one more and not know how to count higher than 12.
What to do. So, yeah, I have, now, you know, I have been to New Orleans many, many, many times, and lived in Louisiana, and I had not heard that. But what I have seen is I've walked down New Orleans, and I when I was there recently, for the first time, I noticed where people had little, like, in some case, little stones, in other case, little, like, tchotchke things, are set up in a window, like, just sitting across a windowsill, and I saw it, or above a doorway, and I saw that in several places, and I was like, what the heck is that? And I figured it was some kind of local, and I actually meant to look it up and never did. And then when you told me about that, I thought, oh, well, that makes sense. It must be
trying to ward off the Rougarou.
To ward off the Rougarou, you know, because they have 13 things. And I actually went through some pictures earlier today trying to see if I had a picture of one of those windows. Next time I go down there, I'm going to get one. Because I had not heard that before tonight. But I thought that was really interesting and so funny that I saw it in several places. In one area of the city, it was particularly prevalent. And I thought, well, that's interesting, maybe there's a lot of rougarous in that area of New Orleans.
Well, that's actually...
I don't know.
I thought that was interesting in my research. It says rougarou is also used as a verb. It's to talk about, or you had a really sleepless night, or really restless night, or an active night. You say, I rougarooed all night long.
I've rougarooed a lot at night. Let me tell you, that's something right there.
I've rougarooed myself, but that's probably why I wear glasses. But that's a different story altogether.
All right, this is why we should not include him in our little chats. One thing legend says that this makes no sense to me. A loup-garou can be scared away by frogs, but that doesn't make any sense because the swamps and bayous are full of frogs. He should never ever leave his little home or area, so I don't think I believe that one.
yeah, that's kind of, well, there's a lot of stories about creatures down there, so that doesn't really surprise me.
Well, and the stories that I heard, in preparation for the show, there was a lot of that typical, we were out there in the swamps, and then all of a sudden, the swamps got quiet. You couldn't hear anything. And then, out of nowhere, I could see two glowing eyes. So that, it's not uncommon in a lot of this folklore where you do get the absence of sound, or I guess people are just being hypersensitive. When you
stop hearing the crickets and it's like, what happened?
Right.
Think that was interesting. Now, I was looking at somebody's name kept coming up a lot in this research. Was a professor from Nicholls State University, Daryl Holmes. He says that folklore and the Cajuns have this rich oral tradition, but it's part of furthering their culture, the rougarou. It's so ingrained they have to keep retelling it. But what I was really interested to learn is it's not just a werewolf that you have these stories. They also have other were creatures, like we have stories about a were cow, a were crane, the bird, the crane. They have a story that the loup-garou has a friend, friends with enormous bats that will pick them up and fly them wherever they need to go. They have the biggest airplanes. They can make the bats drop them down a chimney and so they can get to you. And they get up to you and they go to your bed and they go, I got you now, me. I don't know what that means. Then they bite you, suck your blood, and now you're a loup-garou. It's some kind of strange evangelical door-to-door droppings.
That makes me wonder about the connection between the rougarou and vampires, because Louisiana is got a strong mythology of vampires too.
That's like a Vampire Central.
And this is also part of the book she's working on. I've been privileged to get a sneak peek at, where she's got the vampires and her werewolf. But go ahead with what you're saying.
Yeah, that's so entrenched in that culture now. I mean, we even talked about there's a big ball that happens right around Halloween. Actually, I think it is on Halloween night, and it's the Marie Laveau ball or something like that. I feel bad that I didn't actually look up the name, but it's a big deal, and supposedly there are actual vampires there. I mean, if you walk the streets of New Orleans late at night,
everybody's a vampire.
They're there, There's probably a few rougarous wandering around as well. You can run into practically anything in New Orleans at night. But, there's so many stories and creatures and like that in the book I'm writing now. You see them as kind of two separate camps, so to speak, and there's a colony of vampires, and then of course you have your rougarou, your people who have the shifter bloodline, and they kind of hold a very an easy piece between the two of them. So if you want to know more, you'll have to read the book.
Yep, and I'll tweet it when it comes out. You know, I'm kind of been left on a cliffhanger myself with that one. So
I know. I intend to have it out before the end of the year. I'm hoping in the next week I can finish it up and get the edits done, and then it'll go up as an ebook. And I am working on getting print copies of both it and Voodoo out.
Oh, that's great. You know how you're talking about, so they've got vampire balls. Well, apparently this legend says the Rougarou have their own balls. well, as it dances, they are their own dance. Of course, they got balls or not. Anyway, it's they gather together in a clearing in the swamp, and they dance on their hind legs, and then they go out and hunt prey. A lot of this legend is hilarious to me. But there's also a legend, and I tried to find more info on this, because there's a legend of a Hiabugaroo or a were-owl. And, you know, I dig owls, but everything I found was in French. So.
Yeah, you're going to find that.
Well, couldn't you use Google Translate? Or too much effort?
It is too much, but I thought that was funny. Now, I did come across a brief little, what kind of story, down in Golden Meadow, Louisiana. Now, this is almost as south as you can get, because it's basically in the alluvial plain, the Delta. I mean, it's surrounded by the Gulf. So this woman is sitting in her yard, like shelling peas or something, as you do. And this chicken comes up out of nowhere and just starts pecking the crap out of her leg. And she says, it was a Rougarou chicken. So I guess she's going to turn it into a were chicken. So I thought that was pretty funny. So, but
that's pretty hilarious. Roosters play a big part of the voodoo culture, of course.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes sense that, you know, there would be a were chicken.
Well, as you pointed out, Marie Laveau, it seems like most things could almost be traced to her, but a lot of this stuff, like I said, did come over. But in 1803, that was the time of the Louisiana Purchase. So there was another thing that kind of evolved or was born right at that same time, and I don't know if you'd heard about it, was the grunch.
The grunch. I have heard mentions of that in some of my research.
I almost don't even want to talk about it because of how it came into being, supposedly. It's rather gruesome. Spaceboy, do you recall this one?
I do, but I'm kind of like waiting to hear your take on this.
Well, if you're a man, you might want to brace yourself. Apparently, Laveau was going to try to stop the devil from his progeny from breeding. So she got a hold of the devil's baby, or a devil baby. I don't know. I don't even want to know about this. And in order to keep it from, I guess, breeding or whatever, she castrated the baby. And when she did that, the two sections, shall we say, I'm trying to put this so delicately.
Basically, the testicles, I guess, got cut off, right? And basically,
trying to be delicate about it.
Let's just go for the jugular here, or in this case, the testicles, or whatever you want to call them. Basically, they became their own little monsters, right? I guess.
Well, okay, so they. I'm trying to get this, so the testicles fall to the ground in a pool of blood, and they become two creatures known as the grunch, or two grunches. This is Grunch is what I'm saying, grunch. And
right.
They go to wreak havoc, and apparently she was supposedly stabbed by one. I don't know if that supposedly killed her, but she was wounded in it. And
I just want to point out, you laughed at me when I flip-flopped on E.T.
Oh, that was gold. That was comedy gold.
Anyway, please continue with your...
I go back and play that on a loop. That was awesome.
Your grunches.
Anyway, so this is our version, Louisiana's version of a chupacabra, basically.
Right.
made out of balls.
And
okay.
Right. Yeah,
It's supposed to be a goat-like creature, and I've seen a rendering of it.
And I'm only worried that you're going to tell me next, Surlana, is that, and that's what we designed hush puppies. Basically, those are hush puppies, and we celebrate the Grunch every year at a crawfish boil and.
No. We don't have Grunch balls that take food. No,
thanks for
that doesn't happen.
Yeah, she can confirm that.
There are no Grunch balls involved.
Okay,
no,
that's refreshing.
Because I would hate to have hush puppies ruined forever for me. Because it's difficult enough to get hush puppies in Texas. Like, not many restaurants will serve them. It's like they don't know what they're talking about. Like, well, this is not an authentic Louisiana joint, unless it's that one way down in Clear Lake. But so anyway, the Grunch is supposed to be this goat-like creature. It's with leathery or scaly black gray skin, and it's got these long, sharp quills down its back, but it's not like thick. It's like just kind of like sporadic quills down its back. It said it's supposed to have long horns, 3 to 4 feet tall.
Right.
And it's supposed to be intelligent and open doors, uses tools like a monkey can do.
Yeah.
Has a banshee screech.
I've
quite impressive.
I've actually seen drawings of it.
I did too. It's
kind
creepy.
of monkey appearing.
And it gives off a stench. Yeah. Just like Spaceboy's dog, it gives off this musk when it's upset.
Well, hey, y'all, let's take our top of the hour break. And when we come back, we'll talk more about these Grunches and talk a little bit more about what's on the table.
I'll tell you where they come from.
So hang tight, everyone. We'll be right back after this.
You're listening to Spaceboy Universe, the #1 broadcast for robots.
They say in space, no one can hear you jam. But that has all changed when Spaceboy dropped his latest release digital. Get your copy now on spaceboymusic.com.
To call in, dial area code 713-7015-214. You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Surlana.
All right. Man, we are having a great conversation tonight with Lorelei Delille. Did I say that right? Delille?
Yes.
Delille.
We practiced extensively.
Yes. She whipped me into shape to say your name, and although some people forget Spaceboy, but that's okay. I'm everybody knows who Spaceboy is, regardless if they know or not. But anyway, so when we left before the break, we were talking about the Grinch.
The Grunch.
The Grunch, I'm sorry.
The Grunch.
You're a mean one, Mr.
It
Grunch.
was called the Grunch because there was a Grunch road nearby, I guess, where their first sighting was. So they, that's why it was called the Grunch. Now, there's something, I guess, this is again with the Cajun oral tradition. I think they really enjoy embellishment with their stories.
Yeah.
I don't know if you found that to be true when you were doing your research for your book, but this was mostly sighted down in the eastern part below New Orleans near Little Woods. It's got, when they see the Grunch, they always have these strange lights that are reported too. I don't know if you heard this. A woman in Harvey, Louisiana, said she saw a Grunch eating a dog. Another one said sanitation workers saw one raiding garbage cans. They've been sighted in Lakeview, Metairie, Chalmette, Harvey, Terrytown, Slidell, Covington, just to name a few places in South Louisiana. And yes, you and I both know how to pronounce all these crazy names.
All those crazy names, yeah.
Yeah. So it's down on Highway 90. They give it really supernatural abilities. Like, okay, it says they can walk through walls and speak in a gravelly voice. Now, the Rougarou, I heard some stories that it could speak in like a gravelly voice. I can't even imagine. I can't recall if the book you're working on, if your guy could speak while he was in that form or not, because I feel like it's been a while since I read your preview.
If he was what?
If he could talk while he was in that form, in the Rougarou form.
He cannot talk when he's full on wolf form. But he can speak. It's more like a growl, but it's speech in the Rougarou form.
Okay. I don't want to give away too much about your current book or the one that's coming, but the current book that's out, that voodoo that you do, oh my gosh, there's some great humor in there. Now there's some steamy, sexy times, so it's probably not for 18 or under. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely, got some sexy scenes in there. It is a paranormal romance. Both books are. And
but there's
the first one and the second one, and that's pretty much what I write. But
there's a lot of good humor in it, and you get introduced to Emil, who is the shapeshifter. Now he's I guess a secondary character book, and the book you're working on now that you're going to try to get out before the end of this year is Painted Love, and it will talk about Emil's story and his,
Right, he has his own little love story in Painted Love, and basically you get to see most of the characters that you see in the first book. You see again in the second one, but in the second book there are more secondary characters. Emil played important part in Painted Love. He was an important secondary character in that book, and so it just kind of, and the response to his character was really good. I had a lot of readers write me and say, "Hey, we really liked Emil. We want to know more about him." And
you wrote him. He kind of smolders on the page.
Yeah, he's a pretty hot guy. He's he's got that whole animal sex appeal thing going on, and he's
definitely. I mean, literal animal
boy. So
literal animal sex appeal, and the secondary characters in that voodoo that you do are hilarious. There's some things in there I don't want to give away too much that are absolutely hilarious, and then Painted Love has got some characters that come back from book one, the secondary characters that get into some shenanigans again and stir things up. That it's just so much fun. It's totally worth you getting that voodoo that you do. And I really think with the second one, I can really see that you really grew between then and that. I guess you got your chops in and learning the ins and outs of getting all that done.
Yeah, that voodoo that you do is the first book I've ever published, and I guess you learn some things when you because I've actually had stories that I've written all along over the years, but I never did anything with them. And finally, when the whole self-published thing came along, I thought, well, heck, I can do that.
Yeah.
So I decided to put my stories out there, and there's going to be more in this series. There'll be several more books that would be a part of the Crescent City Magic series, which is what this is a part of. And all of them will, you'll see repeats of characters that are in the first two books. And I introduced a few new characters in Painted Love, and some of them will have books of their own. And so there's going to be a lot developed there.
So if I wanted to find your books, where would I go to find them?
Best place to go is Amazon. That's where my ebooks are. They're sold on Amazon. You can just look me up. You can look up Lorelei Delille, that voodoo that you do, and it will come right up. Oh, I see someone's busily tweeting my Amazon book link away. So yeah, it's on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have one of those Kindle Unlimited accounts, you can get it for free.
No, that sounds
so.
Cool.
Anyway,
it's an absolute hoot, and I'm not just saying that because I know her. She's my friend. I mean, that's the fun I had when I read your book. I got into it, and I just sort of forgot it had anything to do with you, that you wrote it.
I'm not sure how to take that.
Well, I didn't say, oh, well, this has got her all over it, or, but I was just able to just sort of let that go, and that it was a lot of fun.
I had fun writing it. It's the first book is a real quick read. The second book will be longer. Not a whole lot longer, but it will be longer. There was a lot more to tell about the Rougarou, and for those who, there's actually at the end of the first book, you get a one-chapter preview of the second book. So it's in the first book, so you get to read the first chapter of it. And but one of the main characters, of course, is Emile, and the other main character is a young girl named Sierra, who is an artist, a street artist, and she's also the granddaughter of a very famous psychic from the area. So that's kind of the two main characters in a nutshell, and I'll have the book out by the end of the year. I've written a few teasers. I'm on Facebook as Lorelei Delille, and I also have a blog on WordPress called Beignets and Burnt Toast. I haven't been real active on there lately because just work and time constraints. Some of us have to work, along with following our dreams. We have to have a job to pay the bills. So
yeah, I could surely relate to that.
I'm sure everybody knows what I mean.
So, would you like to take some calls at this time?
Sure. I'm open to calls or questions, or if they want to, chat a question or tweet a question, I'm open to that. Y'all could just let me know, and I'll...
Yeah. Sure. Space Cadets, the number is 713-701-5214. Of course, if you're on Twitter, the question to get there is hashtag SBUQ. And, of course, if you're in the chat for Spreaker, you can blast a chat question there, too, as well. So 3 convenient locations. If you're shy and you don't want to do the phone number, you can definitely do the hashtag on Twitter, which is hashtag SBUQ. And, of course, like I said, on the Spreaker app inside the chat thing. Go ahead.
While we're waiting for somebody to call, I guess you can look over there. Sorry, did you have... Okay. There was one that was very... one more myth that I found that was very French, and I can't read French. So I want to say this is Père Malfait, which is what? Bad father?
Right.
Because I know you could speak a little, or you've studied some French. This was interesting. This is very much swamp related. It's supposed to be a large vine and mud covered being, 7 to 8 feet tall. They said it looks like a tangle of willow branches and can mimic a tree for camouflage. And it was adapted from a French tale, and I can't say the French, but it translates to Father of 1,000 Leaves. And the reason it came into being was, okay, so you've got all these new settlers coming into the swamps, with the Louisiana Purchase and whatnot. So there's these people come in and they encroach on the land and they mess up the environment. This Father of 1,000 Leaves is a vengeful spirit, so if you screw up the bayou or its inhabitants, it's going to come get you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard bits and pieces of that. I think it's a real fascinating tale because it seems to be an extension of the Celtic legend of the Green Man. He's often pictured in that manner, and to me, that legend sounds
the Green
very
Man.
Similar to that.
We do have a question from Beverly Noel. Do you actually believe that the Rougarou really exist?
Well, let's just say that there's a little part of me that thinks that there are things out there that are just unexplained and that we just don't know about yet. I'm not going to rule out anything. Let's just say I have an open mind when it comes to most of that stuff.
Well, I guess I'm the opposite. I'm just like, nope, never happened.
You're quite the skeptic.
Right.
Yeah.
But I just like the idea. There seems to be more than anything, like, okay, there's a Moss Man of Florida, there's the Bigfoot, there's like Skunk Aches, there's a Honey Island monster, there's the Fouke. You and I, I think, probably grew up hearing about the Fouke monster of Arkansas.
Oh my gosh, yes, we so did. I mean, I remember, I'm old enough to remember when the movie, The Legend of Boggy Creek came out. I was just barely old enough to be allowed to go see that movie. And I went with a bunch of friends. And the movie now, because I've seen it since I'm an adult, and it's so completely cheesy. But when I was a child, it was just like the most terrifying thing. And I was so convinced, that it was going to come pull me out of my back window, and drag me off somewhere.
You know what creeps me out? Even if you're watching a hokey movie and it's like, oh, okay, whatever. Whenever they show a scene where they're alone in the bathroom and there's a window in the bathroom and it's night and you just have that pitch black glass and you're like, something's going to pop up there and I'm going to have to get upset.
Yep.
Now, I never saw the one you're talking about, the original Boggy Creek. I saw the unofficial Boggy Creek 2, not canon, not official canon Boggy Creek. Boggy Creek 2, the legend continues. And I saw, of course, the Mistied version, the Mystery Science Theater 3000 version. And oh my gosh, ripped that one to shreds. That's
yeah.
Highly recommend.
I'm sure they would have had a big time with that because that, I saw it later because I rewatched it. It was like on television somewhere years and years later after I saw it as a kid. And I thought, I'm going to watch this because, nostalgia. And I watched it and I was like, oh my God, this is the worst movie ever. And it was just so cheesy. But, when you're a kid, it's like you're just so impressed by low tech.
Yeah. And we're so jaded now.
Scared, which, that goes right back to the whole thing that we talked about tonight. A lot of these oral traditions these stories were told just to try and keep people in line. And because people love being scared.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a thrill, you get that little adrenaline rush. And I just remember so many times, sitting out on the back porch at my grandmother's house, and everybody would be around, and it'd be like twilight, and one of my uncles would start telling me stories, and they involved everything from ghosts to panthers to wolves. Did you say something?
No, I'm laughing at you because you're funny.
Oh. Anyway, so yeah, it all goes back to that.
Well, you're a natural born storyteller, and I didn't really know that about you until you started writing some short stories, and you're like, hey, read this, and then you've got one, I don't know if you want me to mention it, but I was just really impressed, and I'm like, this ought to be in an anthology of Southern Gothic literature. It was so cool, and I'm talking about the one about the kudzu.
Yeah, I do, and there's plans to do that. Eventually, I actually have several ideas for stories written down. But yeah, so yeah, that was really my first, I think.
And you've
got putting something out there for people to see.
You've got a lot.
I let you read that. Otherwise, I hadn't let anybody see anything I'd written.
But that is so good. I don't know how, if you're ever going to plan to get it out there. I mean, as a short story, it's really good. It's not anything I had heard before, but then I'm not saying I've read, enough. But they and then you've got all these ideas, written down, as you told me, for other stories that I'm just like, oh my gosh, where does this stuff come from? I mean, you've got like 2 or 3 pages long of just like 1 or 2 word ideas for stories.
Yeah, I've got a couple of paragraphs. Some are like loosely sketched outlines. It's a bit like having, I don't know, being schizophrenic or something. I don't know. I have all these characters in my head, and these stories just pop up, and my mind just goes crazy with them. And then the next thing I know, I've got characters in my head, pestering me to write them. I have several right now that are just like for the next book, and I'm not even finished with this one, and already I've got these other ideas that I want to write. So
I just find that fascinating because in a way my mother would do that too. I don't know if she would go so far as to write a whole story, but she can make up.
Your mother was a wonderful storyteller.
She was, and she liked to wait to the perfect moment to screw with us. But
it was a dark and stormy night.
Yeah, she's the one who introduced me to the concept of it was a dark and stormy night.
Yes, it was a dark and stormy night.
So
that was her lead line.
My quick question is that out of all your years in Louisiana, was there ever a time that you had any kind of, an event that happened that seemed supernatural, or that came across, or a story that kind of rose above the rest in your lifetime in Louisiana?
Wow, yeah, I'm going to freak Sherilyn out.
Don't use our
Surlana, sorry.
Don't use our names.
I'm going to freak her.
All
I'm
right.
going to freak her out because, yes, actually there was. Although,
hopefully
in
doesn't
years
involve
past,
me.
I've come to think that it was, I've heard, okay, I'll just go with it. We lived in a house that I spent most of my years growing up in. And, it was not an old house. It was built in, at the time, what was a new neighborhood. It was built in the 70s and early 70s. And when I was living in that house, there was one night where I was in my teens, where I was asleep in the bed, and I woke up because I thought I heard something, I guess. I woke up, and there was a dark figure standing beside my bed.
Oh, dear Lord.
And at first I thought it was my mother, and I said Mama to it, and I realized it was not my mother, and it reached over and grabbed me by the throat. I struggled to get away from it because it was just trying to choke me, and I ended up throwing myself off the other side of the bed and standing up, and there was nothing there.
Oh, well.
And what's really odd is I was in this one particular bedroom. Of course, I got up, ran down the hall, woke my mom and dad up, made my dad look through the entire house because I was convinced someone was there. And so, of course, nobody found anything, and I wouldn't sleep with the lights off for months. But my brother, later, when I moved away, he took my bedroom, and And he told me that he was taking a nap in the bedroom one afternoon, and he woke up, and he said there was a large black panther standing on his chest, and its paws were pressing him down into the bed.
Well, y'all living near a Stargate or something?
Similar experience. I know I told you I was going to freak you out when I told you this. He had a similar experience as I did. He struggled, and then it suddenly just was not there. And, I don't know the origin of that or why that happened. I found it interesting that it happened to me, and then later on, it happened years later. It happened to him in the same room. So,
wow. Now, I'd never heard that from you.
I know.
I don't think I want to talk to you anymore. I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Well, she sounds like she's describing shadow people. People have had experiences where...
Shadow Panthers?
Well, I've never heard the panther part, but that was her brother.
Lorelei, let's form a band called Shadow Panthers.
But, people have had encounters of shadow people and, people, just black... You can't really see anything.
Misty forms or...
different forms, but just...
the figure that I had the experience with, there were no features. It was just a silhouette. It was like a shadow that had form.
Great. I'm going to be sleeping plastered up against your back tonight.
Yeah. I don't talk about that too often. It never happened to me again after that. But, of course, since then I've had people talk about it maybe being sleep paralysis.
Even if that was sleep paralysis, my gosh, that's intense.
It was, and I just thought it was interesting that that it happened to me, and then it happened to my brother also. So, just an entry. I mean, he asked me, so there you go. Like I said, I don't tell too many people about it.
That's a great story.
It out on internet radio.
Yes, but see, you're using your pen name. Nobody knows who you really are.
Right.
My first fear is like, please, Lord, don't let me be included in this story because you know too many of them. And then that is two stories I've never heard you tell me. Especially about your brother, knowing what I know about him. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I've always I've always been fascinated by the magical and myth and folklore and things like that, and I think that's what kind of drew me to writing paranormal romance.
Yeah, you've always had this sort of ethereal vibe about you, and
like let's take that and take it to another level. Here on Spaceboy Universe, we cover 6 major topics. I would be curious to know what your musical tastes are.
Oh, really? Well, that's like a pretty broad range. I listen to, of course, being, from the South, I love blues, and but I love rock and alternative, and I like some trance and electronica. I listen to this guy named Spaceboy.
You
never he is, but he's pretty good.
Oh,
never heard of him.
He's a dirty bum.
Yeah, and I like some classic rock too, and I do enjoy some country music a little bit.
I know your favorite band.
You do know my favorite band. My favorite band is Heart.
Mm-hmm.
I love Ann and Nancy Wilson. They're wonderful.
What was your first concert experience with them?
Oh, well, my first one, the first time I saw them, it was in a big, it was at a big open air. I mean, lots of people. I wasn't close to the stage. And then but the second time I got to see them in a small venue, and that was just amazing. I mean, it was just a few years ago, and they can just still rock the house down. It was awesome.
Because I was going to ask, compared to the first time you've seen them to the second time, or was there a big dramatic difference between, because some bands, they kind of lose that feeling after so many years of doing it, but you would say Heart has definitely got it, huh?
They have still got it. I was surprised because, I mean, they're not young anymore. But Ann Wilson, her vocals are just amazing. She can still just wail. So, she's great. I like them. They're usually always my top band, and then them and I really love Alter Bridge.
Alter Bridge? I've not heard their music. I've not heard their music. I've seen you post about them.
It's rock, Mm-hmm.
I saw Heart do a live performance with an orchestra of Stairway to Heaven to Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin was being honored, and they were playing Stairway to Heaven in front of the band.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, Zeppelin was one of their biggest musical influences. That was a real tribute to them. So.
Well, I don't know if we're going to get a caller, so it looks like...
Come on! What do y'all want to know? Ask me anything. Well, no, don't ask me anything.
Well, I do know, since we're kind of friends and everything, you love animals. Can you tell us a little bit about your animals and your cause and all that good stuff?
Yeah, something that you're involved in lately.
Mm-hmm.
I am heavily involved in horse rescue. For those of you who don't know, there is a huge market right now where if you take your horses, or people take their horses to just an auction, which is what a lot of people do, and you think, well, that's okay, that's fine, they're going to good homes. Well, no, they're not. They end up being bought by people who are known as kill buyers, and these kill buyers load them up by the thousands in big semi-trucks and ship them down to Mexico, where they are slaughtered for meat.
Okay.
And they are not slaughtered humanely. It's horrible. These are perfectly healthy animals. They're not old. They're young. Sometimes mothers and foals are loaded up together. Sometimes if the baby is too small, they'll be taken from their mother and shot, and then their mother will be loaded up in the truck.
Okay.
So it's pretty awful. And I've become very involved with horse rescue, trying to, save horses that are in these kill pens. There are several kill pens that are featured on Facebook where a group of people have, they take the horses out of the kill pens and try and find them homes. And then I work with a couple of rescue groups that actually go to the auctions and try and outbid the kill buyers. And, just all I can say is contact your congressman and tell them that we shouldn't allow horses to be treated as livestock, because they're not. They're companion animals, and they should be treated as such and should not be shipped for slaughter to Mexico and Canada. So, that's what I'm involved with right now. I do have a lot of animals. I love animals. I always have, and I've always had like a zoo around me.
That's because you've got that
a dog and
ethereal thing
myself, and
you've got that Mother Earth ethereal Snow White thing where you've acquired some animals, but animals seem to find you. They do. They more often they show up and just like, well, here I am, take care of me.
Yeah, that's happened throughout my life. I've had stray dogs and stray cats wander up.
Yeah, but you had a stray donkey wander up.
Yeah, a couple of years ago I had a stray donkey.
Just wandered on up to her property. Like, okay, this is my new home now, and you're like, no.
Yeah, he just wandered up out of nowhere. I found him a good home. It was crazy. Yeah, there's a sign somewhere, I think, that just says, soft-hearted person here. We'll take you in and feed you. So, yeah, but it's true.
Well, Lorelei, I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight. We've enjoyed our conversation with you, and we would like to have you back at some time and talk
when your next book's out. We can talk about that.
Mm-hmm. And
great! I'd love to. Love to. That'd be awesome.
Could you remind our audience where they can find you again?
Okay, they can find me on Facebook. They just have to look for Lorelei Delille. And they can also find me at my blog on WordPress. It's beignets and burnt toast. And then my ebook is on Amazon. So they can find me there. So I hope you all enjoyed the book if you can read it. And I've had a great time being on tonight and talking to everybody. So
it's been fun.
It's been fun.
Yes, we'll do it soon when your book comes out again.
Yeah, hopefully it won't be too much longer.
Sounds great.
Well, we wish you a good night, and we'll talk to you soon.
And we wish you a Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.
Hey, it's appropriate.
All right. Good night, my dear.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Well, that was quite an interesting interview, wouldn't you say? Well, my dear.
She is awesome, yes. Somebody said she's awesome.
Let's go ahead and take our final break. And when we come back, we'll take a few thoughts here and there. Maybe somebody will get some mojo going, and they'll give us a call in to the number, and who knows? We'll wrap up the show and head out into the sunset.
All right. Sounds good to me.
All right. We'll be back after this message.
You're listening to Spaceboy Universe, your cosmic tour de force.
Techno, dance, atmospheric moods? Yes, my friends. My latest release, Digital, has something for everyone. Even makes a great gift for Grandma. Buy your digital download at spaceboymusic.com.
To call in, dial area code 713-701-5214. You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Surlana.
That's from my new album, Digital. Did you know that?
That's from Digital?
That's from Digital, yes.
I should get more familiar with Digital.
That song is called Jesse James.
Oh, yeah, you were playing that today.
Yeah, so, just some fun musical.
Have full access to your catalog via Network Drive. I should just grab it and go.
You should. It's amazing how...
It's free for me.
Well, I guess there was a part of the Yahoo Personals commitment page that when you... decided to engage in a relationship with me, that part of that meant I had to provide you with free music.
I mean, that's one of the few perks of being married to a musician. I'm like, hey, I'd like to hear some new music. Well, hey, I just made some. I'm like, cool, just give it to me.
Mm-hmm. So, any other thoughts? I mean, we've talked a lot about the Rougarou, and the devil's balls, and to put it bluntly.
Well, there was one more. Excuse me. I don't know why we cough when we get in here. Is this whole thing about how you've got like a Bigfoot character that's covered in here. They have this thing called the Moss Man of Florida, right? Mm-hmm. It's a blend of animal, kind of like a mammal and part plant. That really intrigued me. I don't know if this is like Swamp Thing or Swamp Thang, if you're one of those.
Thang.
Yeah, this is east of Florida. Mm-hmm. It's in the Red Reef Park area of Boca Raton, Florida. Mm-hmm. The first sighting was in 1978. So there's this couple walking on South Beach, Florida, and they saw something odd, hunkered down on a deck. And they didn't think anything of it. They thought maybe it's like a homeless man in a tattered coat. And it looked like he had maybe seaweed or something, undergrowth. And they kept walking, and they looked back, and then it stood up. Oops, sorry.
1 point.
It was bound to happen. So this being glared at the couple. They said it had bright amber eyes, and it didn't look like human eyes. And the coat was actually this grassy leaf-like material that seemed to just spring out directly from its skin. So they decided to hoof it, and they ran into some other people hanging out on the beach, and they told them about this spooky-looking creature. So those people went, hey, cool, and went to go look for it. So apparently, the beach was kind of up against a highway, and in between the highway and the beach, there was this undergrowth and some woodlands. And so they searched all that area, and they didn't find anything but some damp Spanish moss. So this is where the Moss Man was born.
Okay.
2 years after this, there's sporadic so-called sightings. But a decade later, it makes more of a lasting impression. Again, in the Red Reef area on the beach, there are 11 sightings describing the creature as more of a wraith-like entity or like a water spirit. So maybe it was maybe a solid form. But then in 1988, the first really close encounter was reported in, of all places, Gumbo Limbo Park. What an awesome name. That almost rivals names in Louisiana. So Gumbo Limbo Park is part of Reef Park. It's a marine preserve and environmental education center. So an older couple was visiting this center, and they were in it, and they were getting ready to leave to walk out of the center. And they had their encounter. So this man and woman were sort of an isolated area, but they were getting ready to leave, so they're walking toward the exit, and they noticed some movement into the shrubbery next to them. Well, the woman was curious, and she just kind of peered over into the bushes and to get a look, thinking it was one of the cool birds that was there, and she saw sort of like a murky green shape. So they started to move away, and then the figure stood up fully, and now the woman was face to face with those crazy amber eyes. So the couple swiftly made their way to the park ranger and reported this. So the ranger goes to investigate, but there's, of course, no sign. So later on, this man named Greg Jenkins decides he wants to learn more about this legend and try to hunt the creature himself if he could, based on the encounters, and see if it was real. So he interviewed a bunch of people who lived around the Red Reef area and discovered that the story of this Moss Man had a much longer history than anybody knew. Again, this is a gruesome story, and it originated as a Native American story born out of a curse in the 1500s. A Spanish conquistador apparently kidnapped and defiled a Native American princess. And then he went really weird and tied her severed head to a tree for some reason.
Okay.
And the legend says the hair of the slain princess took root into the tree, and her spirit seeped into all the plant life around the area. So now, under her influence of her spirit, all the plant life managed to rise up and drive the Spanish from the area. And local medicine man decided to keep this going and did something to the area where he could carry on her vengeance to the Spanish descendants. So he created the Moss Man to go after anybody that was remaining. Now, they think that all actually originates. They think that legend is just a modern made-up legend to explain it, saying it was Native American. They think in 1980, when John Carpenter's film The Fog came out, that stirred up all these stories and people made up. And they said, because the descriptions of the Moss Man fit too closely to the description of what's in the Fog movie. And they also think, this was also from the Swamp Thing comic. That's where people, they think they got that from. So that's the Moss Man of Florida.
Well, speaking of Florida, you have also another cryptoid that's kind of been in the swampy areas from Florida all the way to Louisiana, and that's the skunk ape. What have you learned from the skunk ape? The skunk ape.
I didn't really look for a skunk ape. He's just part of the Honey Island. The creature's supposed to be part of the skunk ape as well.
Right.
That one, I just didn't know. I couldn't give the Honey Island Monster credence because that Super 8 film was sketchy. Those plaster casts, I went and looked up what a normal alligator's print looks like in the mud, and it just looks like an elongated version of that, and maybe an alligator that's missing one toe or had an injured toe, like a nub. Mm-hmm. I didn't really couldn't put much credence into that, and it's not that I doubted Harlan. It's just maybe he was just misguided about what he saw, or.
Well, there's a pretty famous picture out on the internet of the skunk ape they took in Florida, and it's basically, it looks like a more hairier, kind of like a cross between a gorilla and an orangutan. When I say that, it's like the body of an orangutan, but the markings of a gorilla. The hair and all that.
Yeah, and also has the odors you can put off.
It's like, ooh. Man, you don't even need to see this thing coming. You'll smell them a mile away coming. Mm-hmm. That's how bad this thing smells. I've heard it described as rotting carcasses, and plus this particular skunk ape lives in the swamp. So I mean, you got that dirty swamp water, in different areas, and so
the swamp's not the cleanest, most fragrant place in the world. I forgot to mention. There is, every year in October, a Rougarou Festival, and that's what it's called, the Rougarou Festival in Houma, Louisiana. Again, way south Louisiana, deep in a Cajun country. And they have a website, and I looked at it. It's like, boy, that looks like fun.
Mm-hmm. So, you know anything more about that? Or?
Well, she mentioned the Wendigo. Mm-hmm. The Wendigo is a Native American spirit, and I mean, it's pardon my French here, it's badass. It was a human at one time that had to resort to cannibalism. So when you do this, you get turned into a Wendigo, and you're just, you haunt forever. But they think that the idea of a Wendigo actually came from French fur trappers and missionaries as from their culture, and that they were telling the natives, and the natives kind of adopted
the stories.
You might be like crossbreeding of that. Mm-hmm. So there's actually a game out there, I can't remember the name of it, but a current game you can buy and download where, it's like playing a horror movie where all these kids go up to a cabin in the woods in the mountains, and they have a thing where they play a prank on a girl, and she gets upset and runs off into the deep woods, and you don't know what happens to her, so they all go looking for her. Well, think her sister ran after her, and they had somebody following them, and you don't see who it is, and they end up falling off a cliff together, the two sisters. Mm-hmm. And you find out later in the game they had to resort to cannibalism, so one of them had to eat the other one and became a Wendigo. And I've seen some famous YouTubers play that. So,
well, a lot of those stories, like our guest was talking about tonight, that are handed down through generations, and I guess in some situations to provide the young. Hey, if you do this is what's going to happen. The stories are really quite interesting, and it's what I find interesting beyond that is weaving through what is fact versus fiction, but the process of going through all those myths is what I enjoy the most, is hearing these stories of these different things. And
I had never researched local folklore from Louisiana, and that's a shame because I was born there, I was raised there, I never lived anywhere else, and I think it's because I was in Northwest Louisiana, and we don't have a lot of stories like the Cajun culture is just rife, and like Lorelei was saying, a lot of it isn't maybe documented because they kind of keep it insular amongst themselves, and it's an oral tradition, but the only thing I had was in my personal history was my mother when she was a child, because she was also from the Northwest, more toward the middle, North Louisiana. Mm-hmm. She got to see the tree where Bonnie and Clyde were shot near, and the bullets went into the tree, the bullet holes. She got to see it. The tree's long gone, somebody cut it down, but I thought that was very cool.
I think we also saw an episode of, what was it, American Pickers, where they visited the location of the car, where there's a museum where they have the car and everything. I think that was kind of cool. But I always, my grandfather, when I think back upon this, he was quite the storyteller too, and he was from Georgia. And although I can't remember much as far as stories were concerned, what he would tell, I do know that I would spend a lot of time in the kitchen while he cooked, and he loved to boil peanuts. And it's actually a big thing in Georgia. You can go get to the side of the road and get you a bag of boiled peanuts. And,
yeah, that's a southern thing.
But so I wished I had been more. I guess, what can I say? I don't want to say conscientious or more conscious of my grandfather's storytelling, but I do know that he had a way to make me laugh, and I guess it made me into my characteristic laugh that I have today. And so, yeah.
Yeah, my mother did that, as I said, I had mentioned this before, where we had to go help my dad do some surveying because we were a survey crew, and she told me a story over the walkie-talkie while I was off by myself in this hollow, thick woods by myself, just to screw with me. And I'm like, this is not helping, Mom. Thanks. Told me about some wild man in the woods going after people. I'm like, and she was making it up completely. But I was starting to kind of believe her because I'm like, oh, she's my mom. She wouldn't, she's probably just trying to caution me, keep my eye out. But no, she was messing with me. Pure and simple.
That sounds funny. It's almost like how my dad was.
I think that's what children are for, is you tell them stories just to mess with them and see if it ends up in therapy 30 years later.
I know I used to do, when I lived with my sister and my niece, I helped raise, and when she was young, I'd always mess with my little niece and tell her stories or play jokes on her and everything. And so, yeah, there's something fun about, I guess, being that funny uncle and just seeing, that kid grow up and have fond memories of their uncle when he was much younger. So we're heading down to the last few minutes of the broadcast, and I wanted to touch base with you on the future shows that are coming up. Usually we do, 2 or 3 weeks out? We can wrap this one up into the bag. I am looking at my schedule, and I know you're looking at your schedule. Next week, you have Beyond the Music.
Yeah, Behind the Music with Spaceboy. Maybe it should be Beyond the Music so we don't get slammed for copyright titles. So.
I'm sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to mix your show into our show. But, Behind the
Music Spaceboy, because it'll be the 26th, and, I assume people will catch it on demand because y'all will be busy with
the thing is that
holiday stuff, but we won't.
Holidays are coming up. We're going to provide a live show, and it should be fun. We'll make it fun and exciting.
Yeah, I'm going to do a fake documentary on Spaceboy about his Behind the Music, and we'll ask him questions. And I wanted to do this thing because I don't know if you know about Spaceboy. He has perfect pitch. And I don't know how to do this because I don't want to be on a webcam. So you tell that we're not cheating, where I would just play a note and get him to see if he can name it, like, oh, that's an F sharp. But I don't know if that would really work because we can't prove that he's not looking. So
yeah, that is an F sharp there.
Oh, still might be funny because it's Christmas,
And then we're also going to have a show on the 2nd of January. It'll be topic roulette, but I think we'll also in that show we'll
maybe try to do some future predictions, or maybe we'll just make up some stuff.
And then of course the show after that is the 9th, is the super surprise.
Secret, super secret. We got to nail it down.
And, as we get closer. We'll put a banner up and you'll know who it is.
You'll find out. But I want to tease you for January 9th. It's not 100% locked down, and I hope you keep your fingers crossed that it'll work and the schedules will all work out and everything. But if you're a Trek fan, stick around.
Yes. So, any other housekeeping that we got to do?
Somebody asked What are circus peanuts? K28 circus peanuts are orange-flavored foam passed off as candy.
They are delicious, K28.
If you're from the planet Spaceboy's from, they're a delicacy.
Yes, they are a
Not
delicacy.
on this planet, though.
Usually you can get them at the convenience store, or as we like to say, the ice house here. And, they look like a peanut. I mean, think of a peanut cut in half, the shell and everything cut in half. And they dye it this fluorescent orange that can glow in the dark.
It's not an actual peanut or shell. It's just a piece of foam. It's molded into a peanut shape.
When you squeeze it, it seems like it's foam, but when you bite into
it's probably marshmallow based.
It's very sugary and delicious. My
mother ate those, and she also ate orange slices. You remember orange slices candy?
Oh, yeah.
They're still around.
Well, that and another Southern tradition is moon pies.
Do you think the Waffle House is open right now?
Probably. They're 24/7.
We should just go there right now.
No, the closest one is off Highway 6 down Katy Freeway.
What about Westheimer?
That's further.
No, Westheimer is before Kirkwood.
It's probably maybe
Denny's. We'll go Denny's.
I know you're wanting.
That's one street over.
Waffle. Okay, I'll treat you to a waffle. But so. Yeah, good, tasty little treat. If
no, I disagree.
What, the circus peanuts?
Yeah, because it's like that was like all my mother bought for a long, long time. It's like that was. I almost didn't know what candy was until.
No, in all fairness, I know what you're talking about because when I was a kid, I drank nothing but orange Kool-Aid and tropical punch, and I got to a point where I can't drink it anymore. It was
saturated.
Yeah.
It could be because my mother, when she was little, my grandmother, her mother, owned a convenience store / gas station, and she could walk in. She'd come home from school, walk in the store, grab anything she wanted to eat or drink, and have it. So.
Oh, well, yeah, that's very convenient. But the moon pies, back to the moon pie.
Very southern thing.
Very southern thing. I remember...
my mother had them, too.
Moon pies and Dr. Peppers. I mean, that was a big thing.
And Pepsi.
I don't like Pepsi.
I'm not saying I enjoy it, but...
But anyway, so, good shows coming up.
They're not clown-shaped. They're peanut-shaped.
Well, if they are clown-shaped, I haven't seen the clown-shaped ones. Yeah, I'm buying, Bev. I'm buying.
Sorry, we're coughing so much. We're something's wrong with Houston weather. We're going from like last night it got down to 39 and then it got up to 70 something today. So we're going warm, cool, warm, cool. It's playing havoc with our sinuses, and we're all congested and coughing and dripping and sneezing, and our eyes are burning. It's just we can't catch a break.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I guess, is there anything else you want to add to this enchilada?
Come to Texas, visit us. We'll take you to the Waffle House.
Oh, most definitely. Yes, come to Texas, Waffle House, Whataburger's another place.
And we'll roogaroo all night long.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, just remember, that's what happened and why I'm wearing glasses.
Not his version. What we do on our planet.
All right, so there's the music coming out. Everyone, I guess we'll see you next week.
Thank you again, Lorelei.
Hey, and listen to the credits. Dennis, listen to the credits. And I'll get you some circus peanuts, K28. You hang tight.
Spaceboy Universe is hosted by Spaceboy and Surlana. Executive producer is Surlana. Producer credit goes out to Dennis Koch. Find Spaceboy at spaceboymusic.com and spaceboyuniverse.com. This has been a Spaceboy Universe production. You have reached your final destination. Good night, Space Cadets.